Hey, welcome everybody. It's The Session. Thanks for joining us here on this beautiful Bay Area day. We're going to be talking craft beer with Kevin Davey, brewmaster from Wayfinder Beer. Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Your lovely care package arrived on the porch a couple hours ago, and I was sweating it, man. But we made it happen, and everything is in the fridge right now. And I want to thank you because you guys were very generous with some of the little knickknacks. You know, we got a nice sticker and
oh, really?
I got a mug, a pin, and a couple matchbooks.
I'll admit that's why it was late. We had to stick all that cool stuff in there for you.
Pretty good.
We can't send the package until the matchbooks arrive from the supplier.
Get them out now. Sully's also joining us. Welcome, Sully. Welcome back again. And the lovely Kim Shimke, who I can't tell if
that's the first time you've ever called me lovely.
Well, the last time too. I can't tell if you were frozen or not because, like, sometimes you just sit there and you don't move. And I don't know if you're if you're frozen. So I'm glad you're here, man. How have you been, Kim? We haven't talked to you in a while.
I'll put a mirror right up to me so you can see the fog of breathing.
Hold up a newspaper.
Every hour, hit the refresh screen. How are you? How's life, Kim? We haven't talked to you in a little bit. What's going on? What's new with you?
Absolutely nothing at all, and I'm completely okay with that.
All right, man. Fine. I love it. Well, Kevin, let's jump over to you then, man. I was expecting Kim to take at least 10 minutes, but apparently.
Oh well.
What if you just said the same answer?
I'm just putting Kim on the spot because it's really fun to do. So, Kevin, you guys are up in Portland, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We're pretty much downtown, but just on the other side of Burnside, on the other side of the Willamette River. We're in what's called the Central East Side Industrial District, which I'm sure they're going to rename to like Pro-Row or something stupid at some point and really make it hip and cool. But right now it's all just an industrial area, and it's really easy to get drugs and get shot. I don't know.
Nice, man. That sounds
pretty that's
cool.
where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I think if Portland needs anything more, it needs more cool, hip areas. I don't feel like there's too many of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool neighborhood, sort of. There's no housing, right? It's all just a commercial industrial spots, and then like some office spaces and stuff like that.
Have they shot an episode of Portlandia yet?
There has been so many, like right outside of where we're at. There's been so many shoots. I'm sure Portlandia's been part of it, but weird shows I've never even heard of. Like they just choose that area because they don't really have to pull up like permits or barricades. They just like start shooting.
Just go for it, man.
I usually see these like influencers going up to the graffitied walls and taking like sexy pictures of themselves. Like, look at how cool and industrial I am. Cool.
The classics. This is proof that I'm braving the dangers of the urban environment because there's spray paint on the walls, you guys.
Yeah.
Everyone donate to my Patreon page. So well, that sounds cool. I've never been I haven't been to Portland in a little bit, but there's so much going on in Portland that it's hard to get everywhere. But I was looking at your website, and with the amount of loggers that you do, I can't wait to get back up there because I'm a big logger head and I love it. So I can't wait to talk about all that kind of stuff. But before we get into your current beers, how did you get into brewing? You were saying before the show that you started as a home brewer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So like when I moved out of my parents' house, I actually grew up in Oregon, but then I moved to Seattle when I was like 18, and I became a plumber. And I was a maintenance guy first, then a plumber, and I did that for like 10 years. And while I was doing that, I'd build really cool homebrew systems, and I just homebrewed a ton. I was just 2-3 times a week at least.
Why?
And
why?
I don't know. I just caught the bug. You know, I'm sure most brewers of generations like Sean's, you know, like they catch the bug and they just can't stop. You know?
Sorry, say it again. I didn't hear you.
Old man Sean.
Well, they
like to call them Gen X brewers.
They put the brewing bug on the vaccine on a little sugar cube and give it to old Sean. Why a plumber? Did you have like an interest in the plumbing arts in high school? Like what? It just seems very weird. Like I just became a plumber, just like that.
I literally answered an ad in a newspaper, and it was a good job. It paid well. I was really into music, and at the time I'm like, well, cool, I can afford to buy some nice equipment if I, go snake people's drains. And
were you
decided to buy homebrew systems instead.
were you in a band? Did you move up to like sort of have a band career, or you just wanted to hang out where music was?
I was just always into music. I didn't really have a lot of, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of determination and structure of where I was going to go in life. But
nice.
Moved to Seattle, and then just kind of just fell into this thing. And then after home brewing for like, I must have been 6 years. I decided that I was going to put myself through the Siebel Institute, and so did a bunch of side work for a couple of years, and opened a separate bank account just so that I could save up to do it, and put myself through brewing school. And
nice.
And then left my cush plumbing job to go make zero money being a brewer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right out of Siebel, did you get were you able to find a job? When was that? Can you date yourself real fast?
I went to Siebel in 2009, so not that long ago.
Now, you're too fresh faced to be as Sean's,
Yeah, no, there's no gray in this yet. I haven't had to shave it yet.
When you open your brewery, you'll get it. Don't worry, it's coming.
I've got a couple. This one's called Wayfinder. This one's called my ex. I've got a couple of gray spots.
So right after school, where do you go? What's your first job? What's your first?
Well, when I was going to Siebel, I was obsessed with lager beer. I really thought that was going to be the next wave of what craft beer would be. And
me too.
This was during the IPA wars of the late 2000s, where everybody was trying to make the strongest, most bitter beer. Beer is hot sauce. Who can make the hottest hot sauce kind of situation?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. I love lager beer, and I had tried checking out Schwartz beer at like a beer festival, and I was like, I got to work for these guys. 100%, I have to do it. And so when I was in Siebel, I was emailing Will Kemper there and saying, you got to give me a job. Like, I just want to learn how to make beer from you. And then he didn't do it when I got back. It took him another 8 months before he offered me a job. And then when he did, he paid me, garbage, and I was on food stamps. But I learned from the best, and I thank him for it. Got me in the industry.
Who was this?
Will Kemper.
Okay.
But chucking it.
Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, chucking it. He started Thomas Kemper Brewing and a bunch of other stuff.
Nice.
As a consultant.
Was he sort of ignoring your emails? Did you keep pestering him? Like, I feel like working at Chuckin', that's a pretty big foot in the door when just coming, going to Siebel. You're not even out of, like a brewing school yet.
Well, back then Chuckin' opened in 2008, so and I was pestering him in 2009. They didn't even have a name for themselves at that point.
So no one cared.
No one cared.
Okay.
It was actually when I was there, I was like, I think the second brewery hired. The first one being Josh Freem, who started Freem Brewing.
Yeah.
So my first week, I got trained from Josh Freem, which was kind of fun. I got to say that he trained me how to make beer too. So
what was the deal with lagers? Why that? When the IPA wars were going on, were you not into IPAs? You have like some sort of, did you live in Germany for a while, or did you fantasize about living in Germany, or?
I don't know. I was always really drawn to them. There's a chain of German import places called Prost in Seattle, and that was like the first place I'd hang out when I was like 21, and it was right when he opened it back in like 2003. And frankly, I was homebrewing, and I never made IPA, mainly because I could go to all these cool beer spots in Seattle and get great IPA from a whole bunch of brewers, but nobody was really making great lager except for imported. And so when I was going to homebrew, like mainly what I brewed was lagers and Belgian beer. I still love Belgian beer, but it's not very hot and sexy right now. I'm really happy that lager's gotten its fair shake, and the craft beering industry is starting to get its fair shake. Yeah,
me too, man. It's there's something about lagers that it's when if more breweries, well, I shouldn't say that because it doesn't matter. It's not a brewery's fault that it doesn't sell. It's a consumer's fault. But I feel like the lagers that are really good, they're the brewers there that make them pay as much attention to them as they would to their like IPAs. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you get a lager and you can just tell it's like, well, let's do a lager. I guess I want to. I don't know, but I'm really going to focus on this IPA.
Yeah.
You know, but you pay special attention to lagers, and I want, it's the romanticist in me. I want to feel like if everybody just had one really nice Helles, the world would be a better place. But I guess it's not true, man. I guess that's
for most craft breweries, I feel like that's kind of been the spot where it's like you'll go to like, especially brew pubs along the West Coast here. You know, you go into a random brew pub on the coast or along California and Oregon and stuff, and you walk in, you'll see IPA, Hefeweizen, Pale Ale, Stout, Amber Ale, and then at the very end, they'll have a tap that just says lager. Or at least that's the way it was when I was, back in the mid 2000s. And nobody, and you'd ask them, well, what's your lager? And they'd just go, oh, well, this is some crap we make for Bud Light drinkers.
Jesus. That might be a bit extreme.
To be honest. So we always kind of joked at Chuck and that. I'm like, man, we should do the same thing where we have Vienna and Helles and Douglas and Pilsner. And at the very end, we just have ale. People ask us about it. We just go, it's hoppy, it's fruity.
Yeah, but in their defense, I mean, most brew pubs are like, they're 2-vessel. There's no temperature control in the mash tun. It's just they're producing ales. So I mean, I get it. I'm actually not defending it. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, but they don't have like the system that you have at Wayfinder, which is like it's essentially like an oil refinery in a lot of ways with the way all the equipment you have and all that. It's it's pretty impressive.
We do have a really well-engineered system.
Yeah.
I guess that goes into the whole. I don't know. I don't want to say anything that is offensive or anything, but
say it. Go ahead. JP's here. He's fine with it.
Yeah, I'll cut it out.
Does it all the time.
I think that's what we really have to do for the next step in craft beer. Is it's going to be more about engineering. I think that when craft brewers, when the revolution happened in the 90s and 2000s, a lot of the information that you could get and a lot of the suppliers, frankly, they didn't really know what they were doing, or they were piecing it together. And I'm not saying that they were stupid. It's just that it was like,
it was a path of least resistance.
It was new.
It was like old equipment from England that was brought over, like the Grundy tanks, and
yeah. And it wasn't all figured out. And now that we've kind of gotten it figured out, like I feel like there's not an excuse to under-engineer things anymore. And we do have a really nice system at Wayfinder, but I look around Portland, there's a lot of people with really nice systems. And I just don't think that there's an excuse to make beer that isn't like technically, very well produced. Now, that being said, I think
I agree.
Somebody I used to be a boss of mine, Kevin, I forgot his last name.
Kevin Forehand's at.
No, that's
okay.
I don't know where Kevin. Flying Bike.
Exactly. Yeah, in Portland.
A different Kevin.
Seattle.
Kevin Reed is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
He once told me, he's like, a good brewer can make great beer on any system. I think that you just kind of have to know what your limitations are and play within your limitations if you're going to make great beer. If you look at British brewing, it's not very technical. It's pretty much but the thing is you have to use the ingredients that make sense for what you're brewing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree that a pint of English bitter can be absolutely divine. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm sorry. Let's start something else.
Well, I think what you're saying is the equipment that you need to brew a pint of English bitter doesn't need to be as technically advanced or than, let's say, doing your quadruple decoction, quad at Wayfinder. I mean, you're not going to achieve the same lushness and elegance of that beer as you are with a beer that's simpler to make.
Mm-hmm.
I think about another brewery in town, and I'm just going to shout out Heater Allen. I'm drinking one of their beers right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm also dating the head brewer, so there's that.
Hey, whoa.
They have, I don't know if you're familiar with pub systems. They originally had a pub system, that were put together in New England. They were very simple 2-vessel systems. They're sold on a skid. They're all over the place. I think the original Deschutes was on a pub system. But they made their beers, they step mashed them all on a pub system. It just took a lot more work. You can do it. It's just a lot more work.
Right.
You know, doing hot water infusions and a lot of stirring. You can do a lot of this stuff. Yeah. I'll go back to that Kevin Reed saying that is, you know, a great brewer can make great beer on any system. That's
true. But to your point about, you know, sort of having engineered systems nowadays, you know, it lowers the learning curve. Like you could use, you know, dairy tanks and, you know, repurpose dairy equipment to make great beer, but it'd probably take you a long time to learn how to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I think the hard part that Wayfinder does is the work production side of it, but on the cellar side, we're not doing anything really, really crazy. We have regular fermenters just like everybody else.
Yeah. You don't have magic fermenters?
Well, we just don't have like a line of horizontals and weird fooders and a cellar that's like temperature controlled, that's dripping water off the ceiling like Pilsner or Cal. We don't have anything like that. There's no magic there. We do have a couple of pumps and an extra mash mixer. But other than that, we have a very simple system that works just like everybody else's. It is steam run, so that's an expensive thing to put in a steam boiler and boil wort and mash. So yes, I agree. It's actually a lot less work for me to do. Nice. But you know, if you look at Will Kemper's brew house, a lot of those pumps, piping, all that kind of stuff he found on eBay. He put a lot of that brewery together himself. When it came to the control panel, he learned how to use Opto 22, like a little computer control system. Flew down to San Diego and bought the software and learned how to do it. And so that whole thing is computer controlled because he figured out how to do it. So it takes a lot of like brewer innovation that way. So Specific Mechanical did make the system, but because Will was already an engineer by trade, he was able to make pretty well engineered beers that way.
Yeah, alter it a little bit and to suit his needs. Nice.
I think that like what I'm trying to say is that it's lager brewing in particular isn't so much about art as it is engineering. It's about, you know, knowing what you need, you know, obviously having a bit of intelligence, but then not settling for second best. Not, you know, understanding what you're trying to achieve and then achieving it. It's kind of hard to do, but like it's
Well, and I think, you know, nowadays, you know, homebrewers especially, we have, what am I trying to say? We have better examples of what we're trying to achieve when we make lager beers, because there's so many good lagers out there now.
Yeah.
5 years ago, that wasn't really the case. 10 years ago, it was even, you know, more rare. It's, you know, it's like, oh, let's compare it to Coors Banquet because I don't know what else to really do. You know what I mean? Or here's an old beer that's been on the shelf at Bevmo for 2 years. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think anybody should buy old beer at Bevmo ever, no matter what it is, to be honest.
Yeah.
If we can do anything, if you want to learn more about how to make beer or what the beer is like, go to the source. It's kind of hard during these COVID times, but a trip to Germany to taste what beers taste like and just write it in your journal. Like it doesn't take, when I was going to Prost and those German beer bars, like the beer did not taste like what it did when I got to Germany. And it completely revolutionized what I thought. I was like, oh crap, actually beers are hoppier. These are hoppy beers. They don't taste like it after they took a 6-month voyage to the United States.
Yeah, that was my experience with Pilsner Urquell in Prague. It was like, oh my God, this is a really bitter, sharp beer.
Yeah.
And then when you have it over here, it's a lot tamer, a lot quieter.
Yeah. Yep.
Go to the source. I agree.
So you moved, I'm reading my notes here. So you moved from Chuckanut, you went to Firestone Walker.
Yeah.
I can't tell if that's a step up or not. I mean, they're like, to me, those are both like king, you know, they're great at what they do. But I guess maybe back then, Firestone Walker was a little more well-known.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Firestone Walker was a dream job for me. It didn't really work out perfectly because I wasn't really suited for living in the desert, I guess. There's some other stuff going on there too, like as far as me and my relationship went. We ended up deciding to come back to the Northwest.
Okay.
And I love the guys at Firestone. They're great people, but it wasn't a really long-term project for me, but I learned a lot from those guys. And what was strange was not so much going from Chuckanut to Firestone, but going from Firestone to work at another small brewery that won't be named in Seattle, and being like, wow, because Chuckanut they were pretty much like Big Brewing on a small scale, and then Firestone was Big Brewing on a bigger scale, and like it all made sense. I'm like, oh, but then when you go back and to another brewery that is, a glorified homebrew system, you're just like, oh wow, okay, well, not taking a technical approach. I think that Firestone and Chuckanut both take a very technical approach to making beer, and I that's what I'm into.
Do you think that helped modify your brewing at all, or did you go in wanting to be that sort of like technical, almost engineering mind?
I mean, I think so. I think that's the reason why Matt hired me at Firestone, was that I was into technical brewing.
Nice.
And that's what I mean, I definitely think that they take a scientific approach to brewing, and I think that's the best way.
Yeah.
I think it actually makes the best beer, but I mean, I think that there's also great examples where if you're, in the middle of a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere and talking about the spirits that are in the air, it's another great way of making beer. But I prefer the previous way. But that's just me.
For sure. Yeah, the spirits and the engineering. So when do you land at Wayfinder, excuse me?
Well, so we moved back to Seattle. I jumped around a couple places and then ended up at a Gordon Biersch and ran the Seattle location for 2 years.
No slouch at the lager beers either.
Right. And that was just kind of a holding spot. And then I wanted to do my own thing, and ended up getting approached by these guys who were trying to open a lager brewery in Portland, lager-centric brewery. And one of the reasons why the approach with Wayfinder was so appealing to me is that I wanted to do exactly what they wanted to do, which was half IPA, half lager. We wanted to do lager brewery, but we didn't want to have the Lederhosen and the pretzels and we didn't want it to be, I mean, frankly, kind of culturally appropriative. We wanted it to be an American brewery, and be our own thing, like make these classic styles, but do them the way that we want to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've achieved that. I think that a lot of the beers that we make, like with Munich Dunkel and the Helles and stuff, these are, I feel like that we won awards at GABF for them. They're very similar. They're not American interpretations of these beers, but I feel like in the branding and in the way that they look, feel, and taste, they're for our audience.
How did you come across those guys? I mean, or gals as well. It sounds like it was a match made in lager heaven. You have this penchant for wanting to brew that style of beer, and then you have these owners that are like interested in doing it. How did you all come together?
Well, I knew Charlie Devereaux from just hanging. Well, actually, when I was at Chuckanut, I used to go to these brewers' nights every night at this bar called the Green Frog. It's no longer there, but they used to have a brewers' night every week, and they'd have a different rep. And I would always make it my point to go in there just so I'd met people in the industry. And I ran into Charlie Devereaux. He started Double Mountain Brewing in Hood River.
Yep.
And we hung out and we drank too much, and we went around town, went to Boundary, went to Chuckanut, had a good time. And we were kind of friends then. And I heard from some friends that he had left Double Mountain and wanted to open a lager brewery. So I just called him on the spot and told him that I had to be his brewer. And turned out doing it.
That's awesome. Just said, hey, this is my job now, and and that's it. So how do you build a brew house to focus on lager beers, or at least make the best lager beers that you can?
That's interesting. I think that a lot of it is we focused on step mashing. Now, I just want to say that we also do most everything that we do for lagers for ales as well. Okay. We do step mashing for all our ales as well. And then we have a separate decoction vessel. So we have a mash tun, a lauter tun, and then we also have like what's called like a cereal cooker, a decoction tun. So we're able to mash into a mash mixer, pull a section out, boil it, add it back in, and do step mashing that way. And then other than that, that's pretty much it. Other than that,
wow,
everything else looks the same. Finger heat exchanger.
Yeah. So you don't do that. You don't do decoction mashing, obviously, for ales, right? You're talking just specifically the step mashes. that's pretty uncommon, I think, right? In the industry where you're for ales, you're commercial brewery doing step mashes for like pale ales or whatever.
Not really. No.
No?
I mean, at Firestone, they did step mashing for everything.
Oh, I should have paid attention.
You're just out of the loop.
Yeah, I'm just stupid. I didn't retain any information. Okay, well that's cool. I mean, I'm always just throwing it back to homebrew where it's like, oh well, it's 152 and then that's it, you know.
Yeah, there's an art to it, you know.
But what do you do? There's a lot of ale brewers out there. We do one for develop fan. What do you do?
Well, it depends on the malt. So that's the other thing about Wayfinder that we focused on was using a lot of different base malts to create different styles and flavors. So like with our Czech Pilsner that you might be able to try, that is Bohemian Pilsner malt. Our Helles is just straight up Weyermann Barca Pilsner malt. For our ales, we use a local Pilsner style malt, but so they're all different, but you'll have to forgive me, I work in Celsius. Most of them, we start at 60 Celsius. Let me translate. So 140, 155, 162, 178 is a very typical step for us.
Wow.
So we're focusing on, the whole idea here is to allow beta amylase. Well, in Germany, when they talk about mashing, they're not just saying like beta rest or alpha rest. They'd say maltose production rest and they say saccharification rest. So the whole point of the lower temperature rest, the 140 to 149 degree rest, is to really emphasize the use of beta amylase. And if you remember, beta amylase is the one that cleaves off the little edges and creates maltose, where alpha amylase cleaves alpha 1,4 bonds randomly. So alpha is more active and can do more damage to amylose and amylopectin or pardon me. It can make more sugar, but beta amylase can make more maltose.
That's the level I'm on. The make more sugar. That was perfect.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a sugar matrix of wort that is high maltose, the highest maltose as possible. And the reason being is that if you focus more on alpha amylase doing all of the work, you're going to create a lot of glucose. And that will create unhealthy fermentations, mainly because it's kind of like, imagine yeast is like a party of people showing up to a smorgasbord of food.
With mass.
If you have most of it being dessert, they're going to eat all the dessert first because it's delicious, and then they'll never get to the broccoli. But if you have a lot of really great staple foods, maltose, they might eat the sweet things really quick. Might eat that, but then most of it is going to be potatoes and stuff like that. And then they're still healthy enough to finish the broccoli at the end.
Okay. And I imagine
you have to make drier beer and better fermentation character.
Okay. How much longer with the cereal masher and all that kind of stuff? How much longer does a decoction beer take versus a typical ale?
So for our mashing time, from mash in to sending the lauter to kettle, our longest is usually about 4 hours from when we start grinding grain till when we're lautering to kettle. So quite a while. Most of them are done in about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And a lot of that comes into the engineering of our brew house, where we have a high pressure steam boiler and we're able to change temperature really quickly. And that really helps us out.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like an extra, what was it, an hour and a half, 2 hours? I feel like that's not that long.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Sure, there's some time, but it does speak to how your brew house is put together. That if you're going to do these beers, make sure that you're efficient on all aspects of, besides just having a cereal cooker.
Yeah, totally. And that a lot of it is the engineering of the brew house itself. But that being said, a lot of our brews, like when we're doing the quad decocted or even double decocted brew days, they're like 10-hour brew days. They're not great. And as we're growing as a company, I'm having to find out that I can't just make everybody work 10, 15 hours a day like I've been making myself do it. Yeah. So Or if I'm going to, we have to schedule two shifts, and it can be a pain in the butt. But I don't really want to sacrifice quality, especially at this point in our game.
Yeah.
But when you're brewing ales and you're doing these rests, I mean, I'm assuming that the rests are done to achieve sort of the final, the sense of the beer that you want to make. Are you using a lot more specialty malt in order to achieve, more mouthfeel and more of a malt structure? Or because if you rest too much, you're going to sort of cleave and consume, the yeast is going to consume that. So how do you work that? Managing arrests or through
malt? I think it is more managing rest and then also doing mash out. So getting it up to a temperature to where you're not having any more enzyme degradation. Mm-hmm. Once you build what you want to build, setting it to ladder 10 at about 178 degrees really solves that. But yeah, you're right. And also malt selection is a big deal too. So if you're using a malt that like a North American barley that is grown to consume adjunct having usually almost no enzyme potential, like rice and corn. A lot of our American barleys are done that way. They're frankly a lot of the American barleys that have been grown in the U.S. to be disease resistant, and they're not made for craft brewers. A lot of them are made for the big guys, and they're made to be mixed with adjunct. So I've found that when we want to make an all malt product, we usually use a European malt, or it's going to end up being way too, like Sean says, a little bit way too dry. It's a hard balance to play. So when we want to use all American malt, we almost always use an adjunct. Corn, rice, dextrose, one of the three.
All that kind of stuff. Okay. Well, Kevin, look, let me take a real quick break. Because we're talking about beer so much, I want to start drinking.
Oh yeah, good call.
So we're gonna jump.
I can be more fun if you guys want to not talk.
Dude, no, that's good. That's good.
Whatever, yeah, I like it. Yeah, Sully's right. It is a good mix, and like I was saying, man, we have the technical things. That's what a lot of people come for, and then they also come for the farting around. So
yeah, so fart around, Kevin. Jesus.
Oh, time to fart. Okay, good.
Literally pull your pants down and fart.
Put up a funny picture behind you.
Yeah. All right, Kevin from Wayfinder Beer. Hang on just a second, everybody. It's the session. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the session, everybody. We're hanging out with Kevin from Wayfinder up in beautiful Portland, Oregon. And I just cracked what is possibly the most pure style of beer in the entire universe, a Helles.
Nice.
Kevin, you are a big giant Helles head, or what's your?
Are you talking about how big my head is right now, or?
Yeah, you have a Helles head, and that's. What's your favorite lager style?
I'd like to say it's Helles. I'll be honest, it's Dunkless. Like,
really?
I don't think a lot lot people.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's just end the interview now. That's
no. We're talking.
No, I will fight you to the death
right now.
I think the only Dunkless I've really had was the Gordon Biersch one.
Oh, then yeah. I mean, the Gordon Biersch one's sublime.
Good, yeah.
Although when I was there was like a bunch of iterations of it that kept on going back and forth, and I think I fell in love with the style when I was working for Chuckanut. I think Will and the Chuckanut crew's got like 5 gold medals at like World Beer Cup and GABF with that beer. But we're not here talking about Dunkless right now. We're talking about the Helles that's in your hand. So let's just turn that around.
Mine, it's a big ad for Chuckanut, apparently.
And
well, I'm trying to be nice.
I'm kidding. It's a joke. I love Chuckanut.
A rambling interview. Anyway, we can talk about whatever. We can talk about
whatever you want to talk. Let's talk about your new girlfriend.
F1.
Yeah, there you go.
So tell me about.
No, I mean, I think Helles is for me. Helles is just kind of like one of these beers that it's like not the most important beer on the table, and that's the best part about it. Like when we talk, the best Helles that's out there is the one that you don't even think about. You've had 5 of, you're hanging out with your friends, and it's just like, oh yeah, like I'm not even thinking. We're just having beer. We're having so much conversation, so much fun. It's not the center of the attention.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I'm gonna say that's regional, because where you are, you have a lot more lagers than where I live. in the
What's wrong with that? That's your problem.
It is my problem. It sucks.
Let's talk about it. Get on the couch.
It pisses me out. Let me lay down.
I think one of my favorite compliments anyone did was Bill from Beer Stud said that we were at a lager festival and we were drinking their Pilsner, their Helles or whatever. And the guy comes up and he's like, Bill, what do you think of the Helles? He's like, I'm not thinking about it at all. That's the best Helles I've had in a long time.
See, if I see a Helles on a thing on like a menu, I'm absorbing every bubble that comes off of it. Like I'm the opposite of that. I'm too focused on the thing because I don't get them a whole lot down here.
Yeah.
And when I do, they're okay. I'm waiting for Sully to make one, but he's not making.
I think that one of the things about it is that like
put Fruit Loops in it.
If you were to look at like other if you were to look at like other light lagers, like a Coors or a Bud or something like that, they're so bland that the blandness is something to talk about. You know, like for really great Helles, it is just such a great beer that it your first couple of sips are like, oh god, yeah, that's great, and then it's just like, then you're just drinking beer.
That's it. Yeah.
If it's too interesting, it's distracting from its own drinkability. Helles should be the most drinkable style of beer.
I give you that. Well, and this is 4.7%. So already I'm
not
like,
big. No,
I'm in love with it, man.
Don't you think it's with lagers in general though? It's a thing where it's almost like they need a better press agent. You know, it's like there's, you know, with I mean, look, I buy into the whole idea about, you know, beer has kind of evolved and it's a little bit different than it was when I was, you know, starting, and it's certainly like, you know, you're adding different like new age ingredients, let's call them that, and you know, and you're taking pictures of it, and the cans look interesting, and it looks great, you know, on certain social website sites like Instagram, but it's like, but lagers in general are just like, they're so like what you said, they're just, you just don't know, if you don't notice them, then somebody's doing it right, and I feel like they don't get a lot of attention because they're not like
sexy.
They're not bright and colorful, and they're not a silver ball that attracts somebody.
Well, do you think part of that is the the sort of the way that craft beer took off was the rebellion against the macro lagers, right? And so I think it was, well, let's poo-poo lagers and let's go ales because that's really handcrafted.
More flavor.
Yeah, more flavor. There was no real differentiation. And I think now it's sort of just woven into the fabric of what craft beer is, or independent beer, or whatever we're calling it now, where it's like, well, anything that's just a lager doesn't really taste like anything. But here we have a, you know, imperial, you know, banana boat, lactose, you know, Fruit Loop beer that you can only get 4 squirts of in an eyedropper a year.
Yeah.
That's the beer that you got to choose.
I completely agree with that. I mean, look, I said on a video once, you know, a popular video that was, remember the I Am a Craft Brewer video?
Yes.
Yeah, I said, I don't put rice or corn in my beer. Guess what I do? But it was really about, I think at the time it was about the idea, what you said, JP, was that it was a reaction towards the huge breweries at the time and how they make beers, which actually, if you really get into the history of it, where they had to do it because the malt was crappy back in the day, and they were trying to make, you know, continental lagers, which, you know, Kevin could probably get into a little bit deeper, but it was really kind of the idea of adding like an adjunct was sort of, you know, spoke more to those big, huge companies and what they stood for, you know, which was like the watering down of you know,
if I could turn
our style. So
if I could turn the script on that note in particular, that the Brewers Association, a lot of my peers have said that, you know, using these adjuncts is to lighten the flavor. I think that if you talk to a lot of the big brewers, they don't feel that way. And I can tell you from experience that buying rice for making beer with is far more expensive than buying barley.
Yeah.
Rice is sold on the table as a food product, and barley, you're not going to buy a sack of barley at the grocery store to go cook food for your, you know, family with. Really, barley's the only other avenue to sell barley is feed for cattle. So it ends up being incredibly cheap.
Yeah, in the 1870s when I was born, you know, when the Germans were immigrating to both Mexico and also the U.S., they were like, they had to use rice and corn and it was more expensive
Yeah.
than barley.
Well, and also in America, we grew a lot of rice and corn. And there's actually kind of an interesting book that's going to be coming out. If I'm going to shout out anybody, it's Greg Casey. He's writing a book about how German brewers before Reinheitsgebot was enforced, which was right around the same time as the Third Reich taking control, and the whole nationalism thing. Before that, German brewers were making beers with rice and making beers with corn, and they were not following the Reinheitsgebot. So I think that it's a narrative that is going to change over the next 10 years as far as craft brewers go, is how we approach adjunct. Because in the States, we grow a lot of rice and a lot of corn, and we're proud of the stuff that we grow. And I see no reason that we can't make beer with it. I found that the rice beers that we've made at Wayfinder have been amazing. They've added a complex layer that weren't there before. Mm-hmm. If I can get to any level, I know this seems a little controversial, but if I could get to any level to explain this, I want to say it like bring it back to music. When craft beer got really popular in the 80s and 90s, it was like this everything was like pop music, just really dumb, stupid radio hit crap. And then you had all these punk rockers being like, screw you guys, we can come up with this. And you had the doom metaler guys going like, oh yeah, well, we can just like fucking, blast loud shit.
Drop everything.
And then it's like, we've gotten to this level, it's like, but can you write a great pop song? And people are saying, like, actually, like a really great complex pop song might be the most punk rock thing that we could have done, or something like this.
Yeah. What are you saying about punk rock?
The philosophy.
Yeah, I know it's dead. It's kind of like I just feel like
you're a Steely Dan fan, aren't you?
Don't you dare.
Hey, decoct my beer. Tell me a little bit about this Hellas, if you wouldn't mind, please. You got a little Grainville action going
on. So this one is just Pilsner malt. We use Barca Pilsner from Weirmann and Hertzbrücker and Perla. That's it. Wow. There's some acidulated malt to balance the pH. We carbon filter our water, and we use, obviously snow runoff water in Portland from Mount Hood. And we add a little calcium. That's it. Ferment it with 3470.
And so this is what, is it just a single decoct?
So this beer, we don't do any decoction on. We do a four-step mash.
Four-step mash. Okay, well, look, for me, it's the same thing. I don't know.
It's very similar.
yeah, that's right. Because there is complexity in that malt.
Yeah.
For just a single malt, there's definitely layers of I mean, it has body for 4.7% beer.
It might actually be 4.9. Don't tell the TTB.
He didn't say that. Anybody who's listening there, he didn't say that.
Kevin just said it out loud.
That's right. Wow, that's very good. And it has that kind of little bitterness at the end too.
So yeah, well, thank you. I think when we got it tested at Whitmer, it was all of 17 BUs. It comes across as bitter because the beer is really dry and we carbonate it well.
What is it finishing?
We carbonate it to the mid 2.7s. Obviously, it loses some in packaging, and we don't have a way of testing the carbonation after packaging.
Okay.
Because we're just a small little brewery.
Because man, you got that like perfumey cereal malt thing happening, and
it's a great beer.
Mid-palate,
I don't have any of it left.
That that sort of earthy hop thing going on at the end, and it cleans up really well, but the hops sort of stay at the end.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this, and this is if I can give any tips for people brewing lager beers, it's the opposite of a lot of the IPA things you do for hops. With IPA, we think about a lot of what we call hop bursting, adding the hops at the whirlpool, adding the hops at the very end, not adding any bittering hops, adding them in the dry hop as late as possible, trying to focus on oil. That's not the way German beers have ever been made, and it's not the way that the best German beers are made.
Right.
Now, that's just my personal opinion. I believe that a lot of these German hops, you got to boil it. So this beer is made with Perla and Herzbrucker. There's a first wort hop, a little bit. Most of it goes on at the very beginning of boil. There's an hour and a half boil. And then we reserve just a smidgen, about a half a pound per 10 barrels of Herzbrucker at the last 10 minutes, just to give it a little kiss of that.
Smidgen, though, and a kiss.
Smidgen.
Just a smidgen and a kiss.
Yeah. Sounds like my prom date.
Mm.
It's going to be
like
my new IPA name.
That's very good, man. The label's pretty metal too. Look at that. You got a little flying skull going on. Love it.
Yeah.
Is this a year-round beer?
Yeah, that's our flagship.
This is your flagship. See, I don't think you can pull that off. I mean, maybe somewhere in the Midwest, but you can't. I don't think you can pull off a Helles as your flagship in too many places in the country.
We're lucky that we're in Portland, because this is like, Portland beer drinkers have so many options. So it's kind of like, hey, all you crazy beer drinkers who only drink lager, now you got a brewery. Like,
hey, you Rainier heads, what's going on?
That doesn't really work in Des Moines, Iowa, but there's not enough of them.
This is good. This is really good, man. Wow.
I really think that a lot of people go, oh, the lager thing won't work here. I think more people just try it. I think it will work. You just kind of have to you have to double down on making great beer and packaging it and making it look good and telling people that it's good to drink. Like, our beer is not uber cheap like commercial lagers. People are willing to pay for it because they know it's really good.
So when you were setting up the brewery, how did you plan for making a bunch of lagers? Did you have extra tanks? Because the one thing that that we hear about a lot on the show is, well, it's really hard to do lagers because it ties up tank time, and the tanks are expensive when you're just starting out. So that's why most craft brewers don't start out doing lagers. But how did you plan for that?
Yeah, we weren't the only ones to build a lager brewery. I mean, Gordon Biersch also. So we looked at a lot of other people, how they did it. Our beer, we don't do 8-week lagering on everything. If you look at the technical side of lager brewing, when I was in Germany studying brewing at Dimmins, they would say whatever the original degree Plato is of the beer, 1 week longer is how long it takes to make. So if you were to make a 12 Plato Helles, that's a 13-week brew day to package day beer, that's insane.
Yeah.
Imagine your 18 and a half Doppelbock, but for what we do, we focus on a couple of things. It's kind of, I don't try not to get too technical, but there's a brewing guy at the VLB named Narcissus. We read a lot of stuff that he's written. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something in the degrees of, if you can get it to, a day at 30 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be equal to a week at 36. So getting it as cold as you can get it without freezing it it's kind of like the law of thermodynamics. When you increase the temperature, you can increase the rate of reaction. When it comes to lagering, if you can decrease the temperature, you increase the rate of lagering. You're doing all the things that you want to do. The yeast is flocculating better. You're tying in those protein polyphenol chains. They're longer, they're falling to the bottom. Carbonation is happening better, all those things.
Okay. And so you guys just really get it as cold as possible for storage, sort of
absolutely
increase the aging time or sort of enhance the.
We decrease the aging time.
So how long is your Helles in a tank?
4 weeks.
Okay.
I think
which is a long time.
That's a long time in the craft world, man. Yeah.
Well, for a lager, it's probably
normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually a little less than you'd think.
Okay.
There's a lot of, we're downtown, real estate is expensive. So I don't have the option of buying a bunch of old horizontal dairy tanks and leaving them there for 8 weeks. So this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair.
Our IPAs are, 18-day beers, between dry hop and actually getting the hops out of there without using a centrifuge. That's as fast as we can get it done. We're still a pretty small brewery, so.
What's your barrel size of your brew house?
We have a 10-barrel system, and we have 8 20-barrel fermenters.
Wow.
We're putting in 3 more 40-barrel fermenters in about 3 weeks.
What are you going to put in some horizontals?
No horizontals. I would like to, but maybe not at this location. Maybe if we open up another one, it would kind of change everything up by doing that. I would like to put in like 1 horizontal and like make a beer and let it sit in there for a really long time.
What would be the
Doppelbock
of doing that? Okay.
Doppelbock or Märzen. Actually, Märzen, like historically, you would make that thing at the end of spring, right before it got too hot to brew anymore, and then you'd put it all in barrels and shove it in a cave all summer while you were
shove it in the
working.
cave.
Shove that shit in the cave, and then when you start bringing in the next harvest, and it's like, oh, pull out the old stuff. We got to finish it up before the new stuff gets brewed. That was pretty much the MO.
Damn. And a horizontal tank would sort of help with the aging, or why a horizontal over a vertical?
It's less room for the yeast to fall. So, yeah, it'll help with clarification.
Okay. Love it. What should we try next? And by we, I mean me.
I think you should try the Czech pills.
Hell yeah.
Or the glass dolls. It's up to you.
Well, I did just pull the glass dolls out. So,
Kevin, what are you drinking now? Your beer.
I am drinking a new beer we just came out with.
What's that?
It's called Gravity Drop.
Oh.
This is a Baltic Porter.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that post.
Oh yeah, cool. It's the biggest beer we've ever made. It's about 9.1%. So I'm nice and loose for this thing. I'm sorry, everybody.
That's the way the old Brewing Network days were. We would be like,
oh my God,
we'd be around the table in the garage, would be all loose, and it would be, and Blobbergop would be calling in.
That's true. Now it's just me in my studio.
And your back pain.
Going, well, here we go. I took a nap today so I can finish the show.
My toes going numb. I can't drink anymore.
What's happening? Speaking of Sully, you can appreciate this. Kevin, I apologize. Speaking of getting old, I ran into Crazy Jack the other day.
Oh wow!
Remember Crazy Jack?
Yes.
All you old bean listeners. He was Kevin. He was a longtime listener, homebrewer, amateur puppeteer.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And he made a puppet for Vinny from Russian River, the Vinny puppet.
Did he have like a beard and he would show up on the show sometimes?
He would come into the show and he would like to massage you.
He did touch me a few times. I'm still getting over that, but go ahead.
Anyway, I ran into him. He's still doing great. He's obviously getting older, but he still like emails Vinny. Vinny and him talk like once a week. And I'm like, I would love to.
What
know
is that conversation
emails,
like?
I know. I would love to know those emails because like Vinny's such a nice guy. Where he's like, what am I gonna do? Not, Whatever.
Wouldn't it be funny if he told you during that run in, like, I've got like 4 cases of Pliny the Younger. Vinny just sent it to me.
I have 100 computers and I'm just buying all the.
No, that he didn't even have to buy it that way. He just got them.
Yeah. Anyway,
people are complaining.
Crazy Jack.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's a great story. Wow.
Kind of random.
That brain cell just fired.
Glass dolls, Italian style Pilsner. First of all, this I love
up there tonight.
Your label art.
Yeah,
that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's tight, man. It's like very like 70s, like I don't want to say grindhouse films because I don't really know what that means, but that's what I imagine.
Well, yeah, we were trying to do the whole Italian horror film, montage, like Fulci and that stuff.
It worked. I didn't even know it worked, and it worked. So there you go.
So one of the owners is a guy named Orion, and he's the one who does all our design labels. He's pretty much Wayfinder. Like Orion is he's a crazy old, he does like a lot of album art. He knows all the bands.
Oh, nice.
He's just a really great guy to drink tequila with if you want to.
I kind of do. Honestly.
Or do some
that's
mushrooms.
fine, man. So Italian style Pilsner. Now refresh my memory on this. This is basically like a dry hop Pilsner, or what's the style?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, most of them are dry hopped, but I think that when we talk about Italian pills, we're talking about like the Italian craft beer industry and trying to make beers like those guys are doing it.
Yeah.
I
How are they doing it, by the way?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I was back in 2006. I was at the Slow Food Festival, and all the Italian craft brewers were there, and it was like they didn't know if they wanted to be lager breweries, ale breweries, or Belgian breweries. Yeah. And it was like Star Trek watching a planet being born. It was wild.
I love them, by the way. I kind of feel like their Italian Pilsners are very European Pilsners. I feel like a lot of American American brewers try to make an Italian Pilsner, and it just doesn't taste like a European beer. But like if I could say that like what an Italian Pilsner really is like it's a German Pilsner with just a lot more showboating, you know?
Okay, which sounds Italian.
Italian sounds very Italian. So what kind of hops do you use when you make an Italian Pilsner?
We usually almost use German hops. I'm sorry, all German hops.
So it's a German beer.
Germans would never make beer like this.
They would never overhop it like that, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like with Glass Dolls and with this other beer that we did, Terrifica, what we were trying to do is like kind of emulate some of the beers that we had at the Pilsen Love Festival. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pilsen Love. It started it was called Pils Pride in Italy, and then they did one in the United States at Oxbow a couple of years back. And then I think it was at least 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when they did the one in Firestone down in Marina del Rey. And me and Lisa from Heater Allen and some of the friends from Modern Times, we were all down there just drinking all these Italian beers from like Rifco Italiano. We're like, these are freaking great. They're so different than all these German Pilsners that we've ever had. You know, they're just more expressive. They've got more swagger. They're just more showboaty. They're everything. They just seem so more Italian, you know? And so we're saying, well, let's get together and let's make this beer and let's call it Italian Pilsner. Let's try to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we dry hopped it. We used a lot of German style hops at the time. I think we were using Tettnager and Mittelfrüh and Spalt, just a ton of low alpha hops. And then we dry hopped Terrifica with Polaris and Tettnager. And with Glass Dolls, we used a different German hop. All of these are from the Huel Institute. We used what did we use? Ariana, the Ariana hop, and Mittelfruit. But there's a lot of really cool hops coming out of the Huel Institute that have been really interesting, and I really think that they're kind of trying to grow them, trying to be like for the American brewers, but I think they make way more sense in German beer.
I mean, I can sort of see that in the aroma, because it is, I don't want to say it's like tropical, but there is sort of a dried fruit complex thing going on where, yeah, maybe they are trying to like, you know, hey, here's a custom hop for the American market that's sort of European, because there's like an earthy component there too, but it is, new wave continental or whatever. It is sort of a fusion thing, man.
Yeah, I just think my thing is that when you try Italian Pilsners made in the States, it almost makes more sense to call it dry hopped new lager.
Yeah.
Because American brewers kind of, I don't know if this is a news flash, but we're a bit heavy handed on everything. So
that sounds so American too. Dry hop new lager. You'll enjoy it, everybody. When you say Italian lager, you mentioned like a very tight blue suit and you're smoking cigarettes outside, and it's very Italian. So
stealing culture from the Greeks. It's a little bitter.
Back to the Greeks.
Yeah.
Always going back.
You got to bring it back to at least once a show. I have to just remind everybody
where you're from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Italian Pilsner, new dry hop content, whatever. Italian style Pilsner to me is also sort of inviting at the same time, because you go, oh, that's a new
sounds
style.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really is. And it is very,
I like it.
It's very, I don't know. I don't say it's sharp in any way, but that's not what I mean. But like a Pilsner is, clean, and you got that malt, and it's like, a perfumey and whatever. And this sort of has a rustic edge to it, which lends itself very well to the hops that you chose with it. It's very, it all wraps itself up very, very nicely. This is a very good beer.
No, thanks. Yeah, I think that it also, for us, like we want to make a lot of different Pilsners. So we make a German style Pilsner. We almost always have a Czech style Pilsner. So I'm like, well, we need to have more. Like my dream is to somehow build another restaurant called the Pilsner Palace and just have 10 Pilsners on tap.
I tell you what, the greatest moment in my entire life
was when you got married.
No. You would think that, but you know, I'm a real man, so I can't show emotion. I forget what the fuck we were up in Portland for, but it was like, you know, the BN or whatever. I think it was probably HomebrewCon. And I think we walked into some restaurant and they were having a lager fest.
Huh.
I think it was for maybe CBC or whatever. Who cares? It was for.
Was it the White Owl?
Yes, I think so.
You went to the log that okay, that was.
It was like a steak. It's like a steakhouse.
Oh, no.
I went to some place. It was like a steakhouse, and then at the bar, this big oak bar, and it was just a double-sided long sheet, and everything was a fucking lager. And
that might have just been the steakhouse.
Maybe. Who knows, man? It was like Warren and I were like, I don't know what to do right now. We're sort of half fucking pissed anyways.
That Acropolis steakhouse?
We had to
Not
go.
that steakhouse.
No, not that steakhouse, no. But it was the greatest moment in my entire life because everything on that list was great. Every beer I had was amazing. And like, I can't find anything out here like that. And maybe if I lived like in Portland and I had access to great Pilsners like these, maybe I wouldn't care so much anymore. Maybe like, oh, okay, maybe let's try something else. But for me out here in East County where there's 805 is about as crazy as people get. This is great. What's the grain bill? Is it still just a single base malt?
Yeah, you ready for it?
Yeah.
Floor malted Bohemian Pilsner.
Damn.
That's it.
That's it. Drop the mic.
Is this decocted?
Nope.
Just your 4-step rest.
And it's 14 days. Just kidding.
It's actually not even done. It's fermenting in the can right now.
Yeah, we focus on making the beer as dry as possible. Or not as dry as possible, but you know, we make them really dry. This beer, I think it finishes at like 81 to 83% apparent degree of fermentation. So we try to get them bone dry, and if we can balance that with that hop palate of vegetable matter in the boil, I think that really, and carbonation like that. I think that craft brewers should talk more about carbonation as being an ingredient, because it is. Getting that
carbonating.
Yeah.
How are you carbonating?
We spund everything, or we kreutzen. So we do with this beer, we actually do a dry hop kreutzen. So we'll ferment this out to dryness, and then we'll get another batch of either Czech Pilsner or Helles up to high kreutzen. So it's at, day 2 or day 3. So if it's like a 12 Plato beer, it's like an 11 Plato and it's rocking and rolling. We'll pull a keg or 2 out, usually about 2 to 3 kegs, and we'll push it into the glass dolls keg or tank, and then we'll add the dry hops and bring it up to 15 psi and ferment that fresh fermenting wort on the hops in the tank and get all the carbonation that way.
Wow, that's wild.
So that's a way that we scrub oxygen, because when you add dry hops, you're going to add oxygen, and we don't want oxygen. So it's also a way of doing biotransformation on your on any dry hop. So we do that for the Relapse IPA, the Chronokinetic that Sean was having earlier, Glass Dolls Terrifica, those kind of beers.
Because you're doing dry hops for the flavor, and this is me. I haven't homebrewed in like 4 years. I'm gonna get back into it like next week.
What are you talking
I haven't. I don't know.
Settle down.
I'm brewing.
I say start with English bitter. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm starting with a mild.
Start with a porter.
Mild with Kvike yeast, because I don't know. I want to be super weird. But so are you? So when you put the dry hops in and you ferment, that's going to blow off a lot of the aromatics. So are you mostly getting like a lot of flavor from that?
Sorry, what? So we're gonna blow
Baltic
off.
Porter.
Yeah.
You're making an assumption. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am making an assumption. You're absolutely right. So when you put the dry hops in and then you ferment on those dry hops, in my opinion, or from what I understand, all of the aromatics are going to blow off, or a lot of them. And are you getting flavor out of those?
Well, we're fermenting them under pressure at 15 psi, so we're not particularly blowing them off anywhere.
Got it. Okay. All right. I understand.
Huh.
It's a good beer. And, look at that. Sub 5, 4.5. See, this is what I'm saying, man. You guys, we can make good beers that are under 5%.
Yes, you can. And I didn't think you could put beers under 5% on a label and people would buy it, but they will. So there you go.
Isn't it in the better for you category, though?
Yeah. It's better for you.
Yeah.
Sean said it first.
Kevin, we're going to take one more break. We're going to come back. We're going to try the other two beers, talk about anything got coming up, all that kind of fun stuff.
Sounds great.
Is that cool? All right, everybody, hang on. This is the session. We're going to be right back. All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. It's the session. We're here with Kevin from Wayfinder. And Kevin, I have some people in the chat room commenting about they are demanding Terrifica.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're demanding us talk about also the YOB collab.
Mm.
I'm assuming it's YOB and not Yob.
It's Yob.
It is Yob?
It is Yob.
See, they threw me with the all caps. And that's something that you guys do. You're doing a few collaborations with bands.
Oh yeah. So like I said before, some of the ownership group is one of the guys started Relapse Records. Orion, the guy who does all our art, is big into record labels, and he's an artist and he does all the stuff. He knows all the guys from Yob. He did Yob's album cover, and we really like those guys. And those guys are really into beer too. And so it came like, hey, can we do this beer in honor of you guys and put your name on it? And they were into it, we were into it, so we did it. I was trying to think of what would be like as sludgy and doom. They're a local Eugene band here in Oregon, and what would be really like both sides. And so I was just like, quad decocted doppelbock. Fuck it,
I can't even say that out loud. What did you say?
How long did
They
that
had like somebody say, like, one of the producers, some guy from Shelton, he's like, you might be the only quad decocted doppelbock in a can ever. That's a pretty good bragging right. You beat all the Germans on that one.
Yeah, man. How what was that brew day like? It sounds awful.
We had this other brewer named Ben who started a brewery called Otherlands up in Bellingham.
Okay.
And Orion and I used to call him Try Hard because he just always wanted to do the most difficult things. We love Ben. We love him to death. But
yeah,
he's like, quad decocted? Hell yeah. I'll start at 5 a.m. Yeah. Okay.
I'm coming in. I'm bringing my own coffee.
So like Ben started this thing at 5. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll come in at 11. And so like that just became like what we did.
Damn.
I was there until like 10 o'clock. It was a fun beer. And now our sales team's like, well, we need to do 2 tanks of that next year. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'll tell you I'll do 2 tanks until the day it happens, and then it's just not gonna fucking happen.
Yeah, for sure. Are you still? Is that a beer that you make like seasonally, or was it a one-off?
No, we've made it every year since. So I think
Damn.
I think we're on our 3rd turn of it. So we make it somewhere in September and release it in December.
And
we'll
what's
do the thing for a long time too.
What's the market like for a quad decocted doppelbock, man?
Huge, dude. You have no idea.
I know.
You have no idea.
The subset in Portland Southeast is amazing.
It's a fucking big deal. Like, it sells out uber fast.
God,
And
lines around the block.
Portland, it might as well be on fucking Jupiter, dude. Like, that makes no sense to me in the craft sphere of things.
you guys will catch up. It's all right.
I wish.
What are you saying, Kevin?
I think what he's saying, Sully, is you need to do a quad decocted doppelbock for me.
I can't do that. I have a big system that can do a lot of wonderful things, but I cannot pull grain out and boil it and send it back in.
Well, not
If
with
you
an
make
attitude
it, they
like
will
that.
come.
But you are inspiring. I will say that. I've actually been taking notes here, and we'll talk on Monday.
Okay, so finally,
Finally.
after an hour and a half of me prattling on, is this decocted? Is this decocted? I opened up your Czech style Pilsner, CZAF, and it says right there on the side, decocted Pilsner.
Yeah.
Which number
fucking
one,
deal with it.
kudos to you for
It's like a tattoo.
yeah, something complicated like that on the label and expecting people to know about it, I guess. I think that's cool. I think that speaks to your clientele that they're smart enough to know what that means.
Well, the only way you can do that is just kind of like put it on there and assume that they're going to figure it out. I think that a lot of I got a little pushback on that. Like I really wanted to say decocted Pilsner, and I really wanted to have like low explanation on the cans, low explanations on the sales sheets, because
why inform them?
Because we've got a bunch of Gen X people in our system, like Sean, that
I'm on the border, by the way, but keep going.
You're not on the border of nothing, brother.
Pretty much a boomer.
Yeah, he's a boomer and a half.
We'll kick you.
I think that my the younger generation doesn't need to be told how everything works. They want to look it up on Google.
I agree with that.
True.
And so like if I say decocted Pilsner, people won't go like, these people suck. They're not explaining what it is. It's like, no. They're just gonna go find out what decoction is. They're like, oh shit, these guys are like fucking kind of classy. They're making decoction.
And they'll do it in that face and that voice.
I feel like we just had a sales meeting.
It's really good that I had this Baltic Porter because I'm way loose now.
Good.
Dude, you're always loose. Be quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, be loose, be quiet. So decoction, hour and a half or so. What do you ferment this Pilsner at, first of all?
What temperature?
Yeah.
In Fahrenheit, please.
We ferment all our lagers kind of similarly. Around 54, 52, somewhere in there, 54 all the money, actually, I'll be honest.
What's the yeast you use?
We use 3470.
Okay. And what's the
Are you
malt
familiar
bill?
with that is?
No, I don't know that yeast.
It's Y yeast, but I don't know what that is. I hope it's a saison.
You use Y yeast because because they're local?
No. So, okay.
No, Sean. Let me tell you something, sir.
I'm sorry I'm having to do this, but so Y yeast has a yeast called 2124. I don't know the White Labs number on it. BSI just calls it 34.7. Feinstefan calls it 34.7. You can get Saf Lager, it's 34.70. It's all the same. Right? It's all the same yeast.
Okay.
Imperial, I think, calls it Global.
Those suppliers would not say that, actually.
No, they won't. No. I don't care. I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's all the same yeast.
This is a firm bitterness Czech Pils, man. I've never had like a real Czech Pils before, but reading about it and hearing about it, I can imagine that this is what it is. That is a firm, sharp, bitter back.
See, that was my reaction when I had that beer as well. But again, it dovetailed quite similarly to like having Pilsner Kel in Prague, which was like, I mean, it was like, oh my God, you get it over here and it's flabby. It's not as bitter, and it's like, it seems maltier, and it's falling apart a little bit. But it was very sharp.
The best Pilsner Kel I've ever had out here is from the can. You get it out of those fucking green bottles, man. And it's an entirely different animal, even in a can out here. I can only imagine what it is.
I was almost turned off by it in Prague. I was like, because it didn't make sense to me. And I don't know if there was then I was like having this internal conversation with myself, which I do sometimes, actually quite often, where I was thinking like, it's a different, they're making a different beer over there than they're sending over here.
No, they're not.
Don't tell me that. I want to believe that.
I really think, and I felt this way, the same way, like when I was going through Germany and drinking the beers that I thought I loved and being like, this is like completely different. I think the difference is that I really like the beers. Like, I think the biggest aha moment was actually like Westmalle Triple. Remember having that in like Bruges and being like, holy shit, this beer is bitter as fuck. It smells like hops. Yep. Like, I don't remember I remember it being so sublime having it at like Brauer's in Seattle. And over there, it's like a totally different experience. but it's even a better experience. It's like, holy shit, it's just not aged. It's just so cool.
You are spot on with that. I mean, everybody, if they have the means, you need to travel to Europe. You need, if these beers that we enjoy over here, you have to try them over there. I mean, Orval over there is like, we had this tour, from the former brewmaster, and we saw these like whole hop bags they would toss into the fermenters, and you're like, it's just and then you would taste the beer. It's like a completely different animal.
Orval over there, I did the same thing because I did the Dumans thing, and we drank in their like cafeteria at Orval.
Yeah.
And Jean-Marie Rock,
yeah,
who we were talking about, he like put on one of our students' cowboy hats and just poured us Orval right off the tap. It was one of the most amazing beer experiences I've ever had.
Exactly.
Damn.
And it tasted nothing like Orval in the States.
No. Well, they also sell they sell like the fresher version, and then they sell the aged version, which is actually kind of nice. You can get like the 2 or 3 year old bottle version. And
the only experience I have is when Jay came back from Europe one time and brought West Veteran beers, like the sample packs or whatever.
Yeah.
And those were 2 weeks old. And they were hand carried over and on the plane or whatever. And it's like you guys are saying, you pop that, you pour it in a glass, and it's aromatic with hops. But anything we get over here that comes through standard channels is not that at all. And that Westy 6, that green cap, table beer is still like my pinnacle beer. It's like Rogue Shakespeare Stout just for personal reasons. And then it's that beer is right under it because it's so fresh and complex, but basic at the same time. You couldn't get that over here. One
of my favorite stories, I've said this a few times on different podcasts, but it was like we went to the Pilsner Love Festival. Sorry, Sean.
Just don't say that part. Just tell the story.
This is the only show.
I know. I'm just such an idiot. Yeah. So,
kidding, be quiet.
Yeah.
Like everyone was talking about Suarez Pills, Suarez out of New York, and saying that was just like this amazing Pilsner. And I was at the Pilsner Love Festival, and they were right behind us. And I tried the beer, and I was just like, it wasn't wonderful. But then I did this Lagerfest in North Carolina, and I went to the Suarez table, and it was mind-blowingly good. And I was just like, oh shit, it didn't have to go over 3 mountain ranges. Like that was the difference. Like my beer in North Carolina, my beer sucked. I was just like,
you were like kicking yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm exactly where he was. Exactly. Like it pissed me off. It was the middle of summer, and the same it was with when we tried at the Pilsner Love. It was the middle of summer, so you knew it was like, I mean, hopefully in a refrigerated truck, but you don't know.
No.
Yeah. So it's speed up. It's shaking around over the mountain passes.
Well, this one is great, man. I'll tell you what, for landing on my doorstep 5 hours ago. This is tasting pretty good.
What's put in a box 2 days ago?
What's the malt bill like on
this? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's Bohemian Pilsner malt. Yeah.
Fuck, man.
You and your Bohemian Pilsner malt.
So what am I getting from the decoction? Why are you decocting? What should I be looking for in here?
I mean, tradition, but like also you are liquefying all the grain that you're actually sending through decoction. You're liquefying everything about it. And it's hard to explain that if you've never done a lot of large decoctions, because if you actually can see the spent grain, you can see the wort, you can see the ladder ton. Usually when you see spent grain coming out in as a brewer, it's like you can see like it's broken up. It has a different look when it's decocted. The husk is completely separated from everything else. Like everything that was in the husk is completely liquefied. So it runs off like a dream, or it doesn't, depending on how you did it. And you get some color. You get a lot more color if you have a direct fire system. We don't. So we add a bit of color malt just to get the color there to make it look more like Pilsner Urquell. It's like a 1% of Cara Bohemian.
Okay.
So I lied when I said it was just Bohemian Pilsner.
Cheated there. Go ahead.
This is gotcha journalism. I knew that about you, and I wanted you to say it. You played yourself. Chris Hansen's coming in right now through the door. Anyway.
If you can like just think about like all of all the starch, the amylopectin, amylose, and then all the proteins and everything else, beta glucans, everything, all that building block cell stuff of the husk, just melt it and make it all liquid. That's what decoction does.
Okay.
So,
But it was done in back in the day when I was born, because there wasn't a way to step mash in
you had to
a
ask
single
Jesus
tank.
what to do. Hey, Jesus, what do we do about this?
Exactly. And I was just talking to him earlier today, but but you had to remove the mash, heat it up, and put it back in because you had no other way of doing it. And so, but you're saying actually that it has a positive effect on the beer that you're trying to brew. It's just not a means of raising the temperature of your mash profile.
It's not only a means. So like when you think about it, back then there was a lot of different ways in which you could make beer, just like there is now. You could mash it all with river water, cold, and then put it over a copper pot and a fire and just stir it constantly until it boils. And that's how a lot of mash was done. And by doing that so slowly, it went through every single enzyme step. And then into the point of complete liquidation. And then you would move it to a mash tun, put some like pine needles down, and let the husks build it to its own filter medium.
Pine needles.
Right? I mean, that's how they did it back then. But I think that as technology
So you think it's
progressed,
actually? Go ahead. Sorry.
as technology progressed, you would pull a sample out, boil it, add it back in. It makes more sense.
But what I'm actually kind of keen on is that you're seeing, because you're saying 70% is what you're pulling. You're pulling 70% out to decoct. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge amount. I mean,
Yeah, we do a huge amount on this beer.
I mean, I think 40% is like kind of 20 to 40 is like, but that's a lot. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, and you have to be getting something beyond color and all that, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It has like a certain graininess that you can only get from decoction. But
So
it's funny because I've been trying to like monetize our decoction. Like I'm trying to like, how do I explain this to people? Like we do it, but like, what is the real point?
Yeah.
And how do I sell it? It's really, really hard because like I'm not trying to just sell it to people. Like I'm like, oh, we do this thing.
So you
Everyone's
want
like,
the
well, why
graininess
do you
part
do
of
it? I'm like, nah, I don't know. You know, like.
Well, so
So
why
how did you decide on 70%? Why not like 40, 20? I mean, why
We
so
try
much?
a lot of different ways to do it. With CZ, with the Czechoslovak, it was literally just I talked to somebody in Czech Republic, and they kind of said, "This is the way that we do it." And I said, "Oh, I'm going to try it." And then I tried it and it worked.
Because I think with like Kirin Ichiban, they do like 25 to 40. Don't ask me why I know that, but it's like it's
Why do you
very
know?
low. It's a low number, and so I think that, but they're also making it's their process. But I think that I don't know when you're saying graininess. Do you want graininess in that beer? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't the whole point of doing that is to avoid those sort of harsh tannic, tannin flavors?
Well, here's the question: does it taste harsh and tannic?
No.
Well, I don't know. I have a
No.
cold
JP, what do
IPA
you
in front of
think?
me.
No, it does
Is
not.
it
No,
does
it's
not.
it's very smooth and complex.
But you said yourself that it tastes grainy.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was almost like a deposition. You said yourself.
And it's true. It
We're
tastes
gonna put
grainy.
this
What's wrong with that?
system on trial
but-
here,
but-
boys. It doesn't.
All right.
I mean, it tastes.
Your
grainy.
decoction method is inferior.
It
You're
tastes-
using 70%. I can't even believe it.
I may be a simple country brewer, but it
Need a
tastes.
cigar with a big ash thing on there, like distracting the jury.
I remember Matt Brindleton when I
you-
worked with him. He was like a very scientifically minded brewer, and I always loved him because he was always just like, "Well, proof's in the pudding. Let's go find out what it is." And oh, you think it's too grainy because you did this processing? Well, let's go taste it. Does it too grainy? No. Okay, moving on. You're wrong. And I always really appreciate that. It's like we hold all these, like, as brewers, we hold all these like prejudices about how you should do things. You can't ever sparge above 190 degrees because you're going to pull out all this graininess. It's
You are.
absolute food. No, it's bullshit.
Just kidding.
We literally boil 70% of our mash and we don't get it grainy. Like we get a graininess, but it's not a harsh graininess. Like
Yeah, I think when you say
It's a hard-
graininess, Kevin, I don't think it's what Sully means by graininess. I think you guys are using the same word for the different things. To me, it doesn't taste grainy, but I get grain flavor.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's more.
I'm talking
Like,
about a harshness, you know,
it's
this
not
sort
that.
of rough, like, you know, your sparging, you know, your last runnings are below like 1. You know, that's what I'm talking about.
It's not that. No, that's not there. That's not there. There's no.
I mean, we're not making 21st Amendment beer.
I don't even know what you just said right now, sir, but I still love you.
I'm just kidding.
Well, look,
I'm just kidding.
if it was there, just put some pomegranate in it. You'll be fine.
And by the way,
No, man, it's a good beer. So I guess that begs the question: why not decoct all your lagers?
Why not?
I don't know.
Well, we're trying to achieve some things with some beers, and we're trying to achieve other things with other beers.
Okay.
The Helles, we're not trying to get a lot of that. That when you tried the Helles, did you find it pleasant?
it's an amazing beer.
So, like,
I'm drinking.
if I were to decoct it, it might be a different type of amazing beer, but it won't be Helles. You know?
Okay.
I want it to be what I'm trying to make it.
So then why are you decocting something 4 times then? Because you have a guy that goes like, I'm going to do it.
Because some guy in the metal band's like,
And this is like such a holistic argument. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like a lot of it has to do with history. A lot of it has to do with.
By the way,
can
I'm
we
totally
do
into it.
A lot of it has to do with should we try? You know, a lot of it is like, well, shit. Yob said that we could make a beer for them. We better make it as epic as they make beer, as they make music. You know, like.
I'm into it.
You know, like I don't know, like.
did they come up with that style? Or are they big beer guys or?
They're big beer guys, but did they come up with a quad decoct the Doppelbock? No, that's something we told them we wanted to do. Now that being said, if it sucked, we would have changed it, don't you think? Like,
Yeah,
Of course
for
you
sure.
would.
And then I see in my notes here that there's a band called Russian Circles. I'm not familiar with them, but you made a black Pilsner for them. And then you are planning a summer release with a band I actually have heard of, Red Fang.
yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. What's that?
Well, we're trying to do a malt liquor.
Oh, damn.
Trying.
You know,
Trying.
like watching some of their videos right now, I could see that happening. I could see that
It's gonna happen. These guys are really cool, and they're big fans of Wayfinder. We're big fans of Red Fang. They're on Relapse.
They've been around for forever.
Yeah, big Portland band. Like we've been using our decoction kettle as a cereal cooker. So like if you go to like a Miller or a Bud, they actually have a decoction kettle that they use to cook cereal grains. I don't know if they use them anymore, but we're using ours to cook cereal grains. We're doing corn, rice, all sorts of stuff, and so we're trying to make a malt liquor. We're gonna put it in 19.2 ounce bottles, and I think it's gonna fucking fly.
Bottles, really?
I think so too.
I'm sorry, cans. I'm sorry.
That's right, cans. Keep going.
That's all his catchphrase on the show, by the way, Kevin.
All right, settle down. Jesus Christ.
Keep going.
All right. Well, I just cracked the last beer we have, which is the Relapse Cold IPA. Now, I don't know what this means, but you and Sully have been talking about it like on the breaks, like this is the most common thing ever. So please clue me in. What is a cold IPA, please?
So our whole attempt to this was we wanted to make a beer that was not an IPL, but would fill that kind of hole. I didn't want to make a beer that was.
So what's an IPL, by the way?
What is an IPL? It's
India Pale Lager.
You keep on pushing me to try to be controversial. All
I was doing was like I just wanted people to know what that was because there's
right.
Neophytes here. India Pale Lager.
India Pale Lager. So I have a deal with IPL. I don't really like the term IPL.
I hate it, by the way.
What's that?
I don't like it either. Keep going.
I don't like it because I feel like most of the IPLs that I've ever tried, and I'm not saying all of them, so I'm just saying a lot of them, is brewers that are used to making IPAs saying, hey, what if we fermented this with a lager yeast?
Exactly.
Instead of a lager brewery saying, what if we made what is amazing about IPA with our technique? That's what I want cold IPA to be. Another thing about IPA that I'm going to say is the term IPA doesn't really, to me, mean it's from India. It doesn't mean that it's pale, and it doesn't mean that it's ale anymore. It all really the word IPA means is that it's hoppy as hell. It can be an India white, or it can be a Belgian IPA, it can be a black IPA, it can be an Imperial IPA, it can be all of these things. So for me, cold IPA means crushable, easy drinking, Western and West Coast. And how we achieve that is by using high adjunct, using lager yeast at warmer temperatures, or using Chico yeast, or using Kolsch yeast at cooler temperatures, trying to get the yeast character low and the hop flavor high, and also getting the caramel malt gone. So it's more like a malt liquor, super clean, super dry, super hoppy American IPA.
Yeah, but I think malt liquor actually kind of like takes people to a place that maybe you don't want them to go. I think what you're saying actually, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and I've embraced this. I've become like the cold IPA like disciple of yours, which of course
I'm so glad you have.
no, I mean, I did a collaboration with Mitch Steele at New Realm called Cold Rice, a Rice Cold IPA, and we used a lot of. And I'm actually doing a collaboration with Harbor Brewing out in Cornwall in England with the same kind of concept and idea. But I mean, for me, it's like it's to call it like, a malt liquor. I don't think that's right. I don't think it does it justice. I think and I don't like the term crushable either. So I have a lot of issues right now. But
okay,
for me,
I'll change all that.
Okay,
lay down on the couch, Sully.
No, it's fine. I pay somebody on Monday to do that. But for me, it's a beer it's got this crispness to it. It's actually, and it's a beautiful like beer, but it has like this hop component to it, and it's from the lager yeast. It's from the hops that we're using, and I think it might be the whiskey talking right now, but I mean it's an amazing beer. I mean, and your Relapse to me defines the style, and I think that we need to embrace it. And I think that as much as you want to make quad like the new style that people are drinking in Portland, I think cold IPA, aside from being a great term and a great like way to describe what we're talking about, because I agree with you, the India Pale Lager is just like, it's so sleepy. It's like literally like, let's just take our IPA, malt bill and our recipe and just throw lager yeast in it. That's bullshit. But you also do something different with it. You ferment your lager yeast warmer, which you just talked about during the break a little bit.
Yeah, so we fermented like for our cold IPAs like Relapse and the Chronokinetic, the one that Sully's trying right now, 65 Fahrenheit. We actually dry hop it and spund it at the same time too, so we get our carbonation on the same level. We do the dry hop kreuzening. It's also a very simple malt bill. It's just American Pilsner malt and either corn or rice at 20 to 30%. So incredibly dry, incredibly easy to drink. Cold IPA to me is a very, very sneaky IPA. It is.
Yes.
When you drink one of these things, it's just like, oh my God, I'm having Chinook and Cascade and Motueka and all the hops that I love. And then it's like I take a sip and I smell it. Oh, it's wonderful. And then it's gone. And I'm like, oh fuck, I want to have another sip.
It is. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm not drinking the Relapse. I have this one here, but the Chronokinetic. But I mean,
yeah,
it's so crushable, and I don't like that term at all.
You don't like that term?
No, I don't. I'm not going to say it again. But I've had a few beers right now. It's just amazing. I mean, it's a great beer. I mean,
so the Relapse is Pilsner malt and rice.
That's it.
The fuck is wrong with you?
No, dude.
This does not taste like a beer with rice in it. It doesn't taste like a beer that's just Pilsner malt. This has a more depth of flavor. It's very round, and so you can sort of get like the lager parallels. I appreciate you trying to find something to replace IPL, because I never understood IPL.
I hate that term.
Mistake. It was really, really weird. But this is very, very interesting. I mean, I'm not an IPA guy. This is 7%. This is out of my wheelhouse. but you would
It'll be
never
fine.
know it by
You're
doing
gonna be okay.
I'm going to be fine for sure. My wife won't be, but I'm going to be just fine.
That's right. Honey,
I'm drinking again.
Here we go.
my
Prepare the
back
bathroom.
hurts. My
Calling
back
in
hurts.
sick
I'm drinking.
tomorrow. But you know what I mean? Like if you gave me this to go, here, dude, try this, I would go, wow, this is a lager with like crystal malt. But it's
Yeah.
and that's
You think that there's like it tastes like there's crystal malt in it?
No. I didn't mean that. I forgot who.
Holy shit!
Everybody was like,
you're
scratching
very
their chin.
analytical about it, and which I appreciate. I didn't mean it like it's like, oh, there's crystal malt, but it's like there's enough body and there's enough malt to kind of carry the hops and sort of carry everything around that I wouldn't know that it's basically fucking Pilsner malt. I would never have guessed that. I would guess that there was some other sort of body enhancing malt going on.
Well, so here's the controversial thing.
Yeah.
Rice has flavor. Corn has flavor. It's not just it is
I agree
a
with
grain.
that.
It is a cereal. Like it is like
Yeah,
barley.
you're right.
It does have flavor. Even though American barleys are grown to have American malted barleys are grown to be absent of flavor. Whereas European and I'm literally this is going to be my hot take. The American Malted Barley Association has been pushing for less flavor, more extract. Whereas the European counterpart is saying, no, we need to keep making all malt beers. So we need high flavor.
Are you ever going to?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just trying to say that, like, I'm looking forward to when craft has a bigger influence on the Malted Barley Association on what gets grown in America.
Yeah.
Because malt right now is kind of boring in America, and I think that you can see that in craft brewing, and that where's in the last 20 years, where's all the flavor coming from? It's coming from the hops, it's never coming from the barley. It can, and it should be.
That's true. Are you ever interested in playing with like heritage corns? I know that's sort of the new hotness in like distilling, or like the Red Butcher, or whatever. And I've seen it a little bit in craft here and there, but I feel like it's so hard to get that not everybody really does it. But are you?
I would be very interested in it.
Okay. I don't have a Connect.
If there's any Connects out there, anybody want to sell me some corn or rice? I've been actually trying to find bits and ends of rice, or what they call brewer's rice, from anybody. I can't find it. Right now, like our rice producer raised their price by 20 to 30 cents per pound.
What? And
it's it's considerably higher than Maris Otter. So I'm just going to corn now because rice is too expensive.
You should talk to Grant Johnson, who used to be the head brewer way back in the day before I even got involved in brewing at Marin Brewing Company. He's in Wisconsin. He would make a wild rice IPA and all that. I mean, he was all about the rice. But there are craft maltsters out there that are actually giving us, like, you have what's the one in Alameda? I'm drawing a blank right now because I've been drinking whiskey. Admiral, thank you, sir. And there's one in Colorado. I mean, you have them up north. You have Eric Youngren's working right now.
See, I don't need malted rice. I need rice because I have a cereal cooker. I can cook it myself.
But you were talking about craft malt, though.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't know you changed the subject from rice to malt.
No, I'm jumping around right now because I've been drinking whiskey. But no, but the point is that, I mean, so there is rice out there. There's wild rice that has amazing aroma capabilities, and so I think you have to find that.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Anybody give me a hint? Kevin at Wayfinder.beer.
Hell yeah, dude. Crowdsource this shit. Ryan in the chat asks, pills and rice in the single infusion temperature with 2 question marks. So I guess what's the math?
Obviously, we don't do single infusion temperature because we don't do single infusion on anything.
Okay.
However, cooking rice for like raw rice is a complex beer thing. And so I would not suggest that. If you're a home brewer and you're trying to make a beer with rice, you probably want to use a processed ingredient, like either a flaked rice, like I think Breeze makes a flaked rice,
Yeah.
or use like a rice sugar, like a rice sugar syrup.
Okay, and this is you need dextrose. Do you add dextrose in it?
Yeah, corn dextrose is.
We use a flaked rice actually in El Sully because we don't have a cereal kicker.
I'll beep that out whenever he says it in the pod.
So we'll usually use the flaked rice at Wayfinder too, but then we'll boil it as well. Okay. Because we found that a lot of the flaked rice product that we could get was not pre-gelatinized. That we would try to cook with it, and it wouldn't pass an iodine test.
How are you doing that? You're just pulling it out and boiling it like up. I mean, what's the temp?
The temp of the decoction.
The rice cooker. What are you pulling it out at?
Well, we mix it at 55 degrees Celsius, and then we do a gelatinization rest at 77 to 80, and then boil it for 30 minutes, and then add it back as a decoction.
Is that appropriate, Sully? Do you approve?
No, I just actually was picking his brain, but go ahead. What are you drinking right now, Kevin?
I'm having a Heater Allen Märzen.
Right
oh,
on.
God damn it. You're living my life, dude.
How often do you use that yoga hook there on the back shelf on the right there? What is that?
Never. I need to get rid of it. I thought it's like a back rubber. It's kind of dumb.
Ryan says hello.
What's up, yo?
Hello, Ryan. How are you doing?
Ryan,
my son.
I can't wait for the vaccine to come out and the pandemic is over, so you can DD for Sully and I as we drive around in the back seat.
So what he just said is that he can't wait for you to the pandemic to be over so we can hang out together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
That's exactly.
Ryan. I'll text you later.
He'll text you later. They have a special relationship.
We really do. It's a very sensei.
You do actually
thing, man.
No, that's for tomorrow. Don't do that. Sorry, I was parenting there.
Oh, don't do that. Never parent, man. Parenting is weird. Kevin, thanks, man. You know what? I'm gonna say you're like my favorite guest in recent memory mainly because you sent pilsners and lagers, and I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But also, man, you have a lot of knowledge. You're doing some cool stuff up there, man, with a lot of this decoction and all that kind of funky stuff, man.
You know, I have to tell you that I'm having the hidden hand, which is a black lager, sort of Schwarzbier, I would imagine. I mean, this guy's the real deal. I mean, turn your mic off right now, Kevin. But okay. He's doing amazing things, and you have to get up there. You have to get to Portland. You have to go to Wayfinder. You have to see what he's doing. The whole plant there, the whole like experience, the food, the look, the feel. You will not be disappointed.
No,
it is absolutely wonderful. It's only 10 hours away from the Bay Area, by the way.
I'm actually a little upset that I didn't know about it last time I was in Portland.
It's just a quick jaunt.
It's a quick jaunt.
It's definitely worth it. Kevin, so it's Wayfinder.beer is your website.
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
This has been really cool. Sully, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, it's been great. I think I've actually had more beer on the show than I have in a long time. So thank you very much.
I got you.
You got me.
Before we get out of here, Sully, you want just to hear the quick feedback, the only feedback that we have in the last
I want to hear the feedback. Yes. Let's keep it positive.
It's from Paul from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. He says, "Hey, BN crew, I've been following on with the COVID versions of the BN, and it's been great how well you've adapted. Also, he says Vale Tasty, and I guess that means RIP in Australian.
Yeah, RIP Tasty. Keep going.
I'm writing following the last Brewlosophy episode. It was great to hear all the insight and homebrew chat. I have, after around a year and a half, pulled out my Robo Brew, which is the Brewzilla, which I have, and I'm going to use hopefully this weekend, and knocked up my first beer for 2021. Thanks for the inspiration. And JP, give it a lash. It's fun. There you go. Cheers from Paul. Yeah, I'm going to be getting back into home brewing, man. I got my Robo Brew. I just did a test on it a couple days ago, ran some PBW through it. So I'm very, very hyped to start brewing again.
You doing a decoction?
No, I'm not going to do a decoction. I'm going to do a
You
mild.
should do a decoction.
3.5.
Just say you're doing it. Just say the word decoction.
with Kvike yeast.
Kvike?
Weird. Yeah, just cause. I don't know.
We should talk to Kevin about Kvike, but I know we've run out of time.
Yeah,
I can't wait to talk about the Kvike.
Well,
really? I want to talk to you about that after the show.
Yeah, will you come back? Will you come back on the show, Kevin?
I would love to.
Really? Because I would really love
only if I can put down craft brewing from the 80s and 90s more.
What?
Absolutely.
That's when I started. Shut up.
Don't you think I was putting you down? I wasn't trying to put you down, but I felt like I was, and you're getting mad at me.
It's fine. I'm not mad. I love you.
Well, lumping in Sully with that is just a bonus.
It's fine. I'll take it.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Facebook folks, to hang out.
Thank you, Facebook.
And, whatever. Chris Rogers is in the chat talking to you. Kevin wants you to come out to Newport, and Ryan is loving you. So there's a lot of people going on.
People want to get in a tent with you.
Yeah, a lot of Wayfinder love.
Cool.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to leave us some feedback, it's feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com. That's kind of what we do now. So give
feedback.
us feedback and come hang out with us. Whenever we do some shows, we got some cool shows lined up for you coming up in February. So take it easy, take care of each other, wear a mask, stay away from everybody, support your local craft brewery because we all need some love right now. All right, everybody, take it easy.
Cheers.